And we'll have the pledge led by Shane Cheatham. Oh, we have a superintendent.
Thank you, President Bamberg. We have several prayer requests this evening. First of all, Mary Denman, our HR retirement specialist, is being diagnosed with cancer. She's receiving treatments. Bo Meeks, the airline head football coach, is also undergoing treatments at this time for cancer. Ella Hoffman, a Benton High School teacher, is also being treated for cancer. Angelique Bird, the Russian facilitator, being treated for cancer. Kathy Ivy, Apollo kindergarten teacher, is about to start her radiation treatment. Kingston teacher Heather Senegra, her daughter Emily was diagnosed with leukemia. Emily attends Benton High School and arrived at St. Jude's today. They will begin tests tomorrow. And our own Mr. Rowland's daughter's future father-in-law passed away today in Houston in a car accident. And as always, all of those that have been affected by COVID, either directly and indirectly. Thank you.
Please join me in a word of prayer. Lord, thank you for another day of life, health, and strength. Thank you for your mercy and your goodness. For all the names that have been read by our superintendent. You don't need their name, their address, the email, and telephone number. You know where they are. We just ask you to stop by and trust in them. Heal them, Lord, as only you can. Heal them in thy Son Jesus' name. Bless this board and make the right decisions that you will be pleased with. Bless our nation, bless our land. Not Cain and Abel, but love. Bring love to our country. Bless us tonight as we render these decisions. In thy Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1.02, approval of the minutes of the regular session of the school board, November 5th, 2020.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Bass, second by Mrs. Smith. Please vote.
Wrong button. It's unanimous.
Passes unanimous. I was like, what did you not like about the minutes of last? Don't know if we've ever had a fix for that. Item 1.03, approval of the agenda for the regular session of the school board, November 19th, 2020. Motion by Mr. Cheatham, second by Mr. Brotherton. Please vote. There we go. Motion carries unanimously. Item 2.01, recognition newly appointed administrators, presented by our superintendent.
Thank you, President Bamberg. We have an individual we want to recognize tonight. Ms. Michelle Craig is a Northwest Louisiana native and a graduate of Webster Parish Public School, Benton High, 1994, following undergraduate studies at Louisiana Tech, where she received a Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education, began graduate work at Louisiana Tech with a Master's of Education and Leadership achieved. She's worked as a 4th and 5th grade teacher, ELA, Math, Science, and Social Studies at Carrie Martin, where she was named Teacher of the Year in 2014. She's also taught 5th grade ELA and Science at Kingston, became an instructional coach at Princeton, August of 2018, where she had an opportunity to support both teachers and students. Ms. Craig is very excited to continue work with teachers, students, and parents and community members of Princeton in her new role as assistant principal at Princeton Elementary. Michelle Craig. Craig, would you come up, say a few words, introduce your family?
Good evening. I'm so honored and grateful to have the opportunity to serve as assistant principal at Princeton. I'd like to thank the board members, Superintendent Downey, Princeton Principal Stacy Crawford for entrusting me to serve in this capacity. I recently came across a quote from JFK, and it says, "As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them." This resonates me as I take on my new role at Princeton. I promise to show my gratitude by loving my school family and always doing what's best for Princeton. To my Princeton family, I look forward to serving as your assistant principal. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to continue to provide support and guidance for our teachers and our students. And I look forward to our school becoming even better than it is now. I would also like to thank my mentor teacher, Rachel Gifford. She's not here tonight, but 10 years ago she took me under her wings, and since then has provided me lots of guidance and grace. I would also like to thank my family who's here tonight. I have a husband and we've been married 25 years, and then I have 3 daughters, Brittany, Allie, and Piper, and 3 grandchildren, Reed, Presley, and Kennedy. And so they're all here tonight, and they just always support me in everything I do. And I'm so very blessed to have all the people I mentioned in my life tonight. So I just want to thank them for supporting me through this journey, and just say I'm proud and excited to be a Princeton Patriot.
Congratulations, Ms. Craig. Item 2.02, recognition, Bossier Parish Schools Good News, presented by Public Relations Liaison, Simon Benton.
Good evening, President Vandenberg, Superintendent Downey, to all of our school board members and everyone here this evening. You know, tonight we're counting our many blessings because despite the crazy COVID world that we are presently living in, there is still so much to be thankful for. You heard the proverbial phrase, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Well, this was put into action when COVID-19 threatened to alter Bossier School's annual Day of Service, which is held each October in partnership with United Way in Northwest Louisiana. Traditionally hosted on a Saturday when hundreds of our employees, students, and families all team up to lend our hands in service and to work alongside each other at various nonprofits. Bossier Schools shifted gears, and we expanded that one day of labor into a month's worth of philanthropy. More than 20 of our schools, our centers, and individuals all came together to adopt various charities and to help fulfill their list of needs. So I'd like to invite you to take a look at just some of the many things that were accomplished through Bossier School's month of service. Should have audio. Okay, well, we can improvise and sing a happy tune right now in the background. But just for a recap, reading glasses and warm socks were collected for St. Luke's Mobile Medical Ministry. Toys were donated for Go for Kids. Robinson's Rescue was blessed with pet food and supplies. Pumpkins were supplied for a carving contest at the Bossier Lighthouse by our own Bossier Parish School Board members. We bagged trash to help keep Bossier beautiful. And 2,020 pounds of canned goods were donated to the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana. I don't know if anybody just caught that number, but seriously, 2020. 2020. I think that was all planned. But the list goes on, and there are so many different ways that our schools, centers, and others gave back. And while the pandemic may have kept us from, again, working together alongside each other and putting in the sweat equity on a Saturday morning, our children still learn by example. And they learn the importance of helping others, the result of collective impact all coming together, and also how a positive attitude leads to gratitude. So I want to take a moment to extend a personal thanks to each of you who got involved to make our day of service a month of service. So thank you all so very much. Great job to all of you. And now we are getting ready for a ring off. So on December 5th, when we come back from Thanksgiving break, that Saturday, Bossier Schools will once again face off with Caddo Schools for its 7th annual Red Kettle Challenge. And this is a little friendly competition where we find out, we staff those iconic red kettles and we ring the red bells to see which side of the river can collect the most money for the Salvation Army. The theme this year is Rescuing Christmas. We need some holiday spirit, don't we? We have additional locations and a lot of spots to fill, so I'd like to encourage everyone, if you've not signed up yet, to please check your email because there is one out there. And it's a lot of fun. It really puts you into the holiday spirit, and it is certainly for a great cause. Plus, our reigning title is on the line. We won last year, and we want to beat Caddo again this year. Not that it's all about the win, but it is fun to have bragging rights for another year. So, Red Kettle Challenge going on December 5th. Hope that you will sign up. As we continue to count our blessings, this 15-year educator is certainly among them. Elizabeth Vance is a true rock star, not only at Cope Middle School, where she teaches 7th grade science, but also in the Starbase 2.0 program and on the national scene as well now. So Mrs. Vance, would you please come forward? She has done something really big. Mrs. Vance has been selected as a Department of Defense STEM Ambassador by the Defense Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics Consortium, or DSEC for short. And this amounts to a $20,000 awards package. It includes an educator stipend, classroom materials, and supplies and professional development. And she was recommended by John Ownby, who is with Cyber.org, the academic arm of Cyber Innovation Center here in Bossier. And Ms. Vance is going to be working virtually with other educators from around the United States in partnership with DSEC to advance STEM outreach, STEM being science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, which we all know is critical to growing the cyber workforce and also supporting Global Strike Command right here at home. So Elizabeth Vance certainly embodies excellence. So it is only fitting, on behalf of Bossier Schools and our sponsor, Caldwell Banker Gosley, that we present her with the 2020-21 Award of Excellence Medallion. To Elizabeth
No, good, thank you.
I never want to talk. Congratulations again. I tell you what, she has attained so many different honors through the years, and she has really helped put Bossier Schools on the map in so many different arenas nationally, and she has truly turned the light bulb on for so many of our students who may not have really embraced science, math, and those other fields in the past, but then they realized they really did love it once she was their teacher. So congratulations again, Elizabeth Vance. Let's give her another big round of applause. And we are so thankful for our teachers. You know, they are the core of everything that we are all about. And they certainly had a difficult year. They had a difficult end of last year and beginning of this year. But there is an elite group of educators that did not let COVID get in their way of ascending higher in their professional pursuits. Pre-K second grade curriculum supervisor Kimmy Smith is going to come forward now, and she's going to tell you more about what these outstanding educators have accomplished. So please welcome Ms. Smith.
The sales. Thank you, President Bamberg, Superintendent Downey, and the board. Tonight, we want to recognize 6 teachers who have earned their mentor teacher certification from the state. To earn this esteemed certification, these teachers attended multiple days of professional development related to the best practices of mentoring. Then they completed a series of micro-credentials in which they put these strategies in place and submitted evidence of their work to the state for review. And if you know anything about this process, many times it takes multiple submissions for approval from the state. As mentor teachers, these educators are taking their practices to the next level by investing in others and elevating our profession. Through this work, they have the knowledge and skills to effectively coach and support new teachers as well as resident teachers in Bossier Parish. They'll not only support aspiring teachers that are participating in their year-long residency of student teaching, but also mentor brand new teachers and offer assistance to more experienced teachers that need additional support. So we are very proud to recognize these ladies for their commitment, their dedication, and their extreme hard work. And I will say that most of them did this work, started in March, and they are still working. They've recently completed it, and we have some more that are still working on it. So true kudos to these ladies that are going above and beyond. And just, to me, there are people that, want to rise through the ranks and want to get out of the classroom and do other things, but there are some teachers who truly, they just want to teach. But I think it's wonderful for them to go on and receive the certification so they can mentor other teachers. Anyway, here we go. I want to recognize Miss Angie Rieger, third grade teacher from Legacy Elementary. Miss Dina Gunter, instructional coach from Sun City. Miss Sabrina Moffitt, first grade from Sun City. Miss Lisa McGee, instructional coach from Bel Air. Courtney Gaspard, fourth grade, Princeton Elementary. And Miss Jennifer McKay, second grade, from Legacy Elementary. Congratulations to you ladies, and thank you for all that you do every day, not only for your children, but for educators across our district. One more person, I want to recognize Shannon Gary. She was one of the first, I believe, in the state to receive her mentor certification, and she is now serving as a coach for our local teachers, helping them through this process. So she has been invaluable to our, people across our district. So I do want to say hats off to her as well. So thank you, Shannon.
Congratulations again to our latest mentor teachers, and thanks again also to Mrs. Smith for that. Well, when parents drop off their kids in Carline at Benton Elementary, they never know quite what they're going to see. Will the principal be dressed in a chicken suit that day? Will she be Uncle Sam for the day, for the election, or in some other crazy attire? One thing for sure is students, staff, and parents alike are always eager to see what Kim Hawkins has up her sleeve next, and they absolutely love the joyous spirit that she exudes each day. This is the first year that Priscilla Borrego's two children have attended Benton Elementary. They're a military family that transferred to Louisiana just 2 days before school started, and they could not love attending Benton Elementary more. She says every morning, every single morning, come rain or shine, the principal of this school leads by example. She is out there with her staff, directing traffic to get these kids into class quicker and get parents off to work. She has a smile on her face. She dances for the kids, dresses up in fun costumes, and my children and myself absolutely love it. My children love when she comes on the intercom and tells jokes that the kids submit. And my kids' attitude about school is something that I have not seen before. I know it comes from excellent leadership, sprinkling down to the teachers, to the children. This woman truly goes above and beyond. Ms. Hawkins' faculty and staff adore her as well, and they talk about how she puts others before herself. Rhiannon Mosley writes, the positive and joyous climate she's brought to our school has saved many teachers. She is caring, supportive, loving, and best of all, good-hearted. She is always the last to leave our school and is constantly working on how to keep our students and all faculty loved and cared for. Ms. Hawkins is a 15-year elementary educator, the former assistant principal at Plantation Park, and she credits the incredible mentors that she's had over the years for picking up great leadership skills along the way and learning early on that the true magic really happens when a student knows that you care about them. And she said it's not just about building those lasting relationships with her students and families, but also interjecting fun into each day for both the kids and the staff. And apparently Mrs. Hawkins is quite the jokester who loves to pull pranks and make people laugh. Like the parents and the staff at Benton Elementary, our own superintendent, Mr. Downey, can't sing her praises loudly enough either. He says, I admire her because she seeks no titles. She just does what needs to be done to make things work. She's all hands on deck and never asks anyone to do anything that she is not willing to do herself. That says something about her character and how she values people. Sometimes we overuse the term servant leader, but Mrs. Kim Hawkins is the perfect example of a servant leader. It gives me great pleasure to announce our latest Gold Star winner for the month of November, Benton Elementary Principal Kim Hawkins. They bring the spirit here, that's right. I'd like to ask Jill Valentine and the Economic Federal Credit Union to please come forward. They're our sponsors of this award.
On behalf of Bossier Federal Credit Union, we want to congratulate Kim Hawkins on being our November 2020 Gold Star Award recipient. We are so grateful for everything that she does, not only in the Benton Elementary community, but also in Bossier Parish. So again, congratulations.
We also want to give you this award of excellence because you deserve this every single day. Congratulations to you.
Thanks so much. Never pass up a moment to say thank you. I just want to say thanks to my staff. I know they can't all be here due to, spacing restrictions, and of course it just means so much to me that this nomination came from a teacher and a parent. That is truly, it truly just makes me understand that the dreams that I have for this school are starting to come true. And thank you, Superintendent Downey, for your kind words. They mean so much. So thank you so much.
Congratulations again, Ms. Hawkins, our November Gold Star winner. And I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, a safe Thanksgiving. Until next time.
Thank you, Sonia. And if you came for the awards part, you can be dismissed, or you can stick around for the business part of our meeting if you'd like. Matt, you have to an update on the Eggwhip Implementation process presented by Jason Alvin, the Alvin Group, and Dino Sebastian, RX.
Thank you. As you know, last time we were here, y'all approved the implementation of the Eggwhip program, employer waiver program, which in essence is a Medicare Part B program established for the retirees with management. This is a plan specific to those parish school boards plan, and it mirrors the benefits that they're included in the plan program. We're going through a long process, many times 3 and 4 conference calls a week, going through things and making sure that it's particular and specific and that it's to the advantage of the school district. Mr. Sebastian has gone through contracts and approved benefits to the school board as far as rebates and discounts, got some additional money off. One of the things that we wanted to do by hiring was make sure that there was nothing under the cover that we couldn't find. The benefits in the end, like I said, are a mirror to what they have currently, if not it's an improvement. There are some impacts, and Mr. Sebastian is going to go through it. I've known Dino for at least 7 or 8 years. I've worked with him on other cases. He's a very professional person. I'm going to introduce him. He's going to go through his presentation.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, everybody. I'm Dino Sebastian, and I'm with Trend Arts Consulting out of South Carolina. And you can go to the next slide. And first I wanted to say thanks for having me here tonight. I appreciate it, and it makes me feel really good that you're concerned enough, and this organization is concerned about their employees, and really, most of all, concerned about their retirees to have ask them down and to provide an update on this. We know it's an important thing to anybody who has health care benefits, that the pharmacy benefits, particularly as people age, become more and more important. We know on average people who are 65 years and older are taking drugs upwards to, on average, about 9 prescriptions a month. So we know that's important, and we're going to make sure this is a very smooth transition. So we're going to talk a little bit about the differences real quickly about the RDS versus the employer group waiver plan, just why the advantages are to move to this program. We're going to discuss a little bit about the implementation process that we're going through. We started back a couple months ago, and we're going to be continuing through the rest of the year and into the next year. We're going to really discuss and hone in a lot about the retiree experience in this process. We want to make sure that it's as smooth as possible. They're going to get the benefits they need, get the drugs they need on a timely basis. And if there are issues, we're going to help them work and navigate the systems. I'm going to talk a little bit about the negotiations we did with Express Scripts, who manages the benefit, and how we negotiate the contracts around that, and the next steps of what's moving forward from today on. So go ahead to the next slide. So just a little bit about TrendRx. We're a pharmacist-owned and operated pharmacy benefit consulting firm. We've got a lot of experience. You can tell. I'm going to take this mask off. You can tell by the color of my beard that I've been in this industry for a little bit of time. We are experts in PBM contracting. We've got a lot of experience doing that from both sides of the table. I used to run a PBM years ago, so I got the experience on that side as well. Government commercial pharmacy benefit programs, developing them, implementing them, making sure people were getting the benefits that they signed up for. We worked in the environment. We all have experience in working as pharmacists, practicing in a retail setting, male, especially hospital-based, as well as long-term care facility pharmacy support. And over the past 10 years, we've onboarded groups like Bossier, nearly 200 groups, and very successful. We've got a lot of experience doing this. And in particular, we're subject matter experts for 3 major PBM transitions for large corporations for their lines of business. Next slide, please. So, what's the advantages and why are we doing this? The thing is RDS came out back in 2003 when the Medicare Modernization Act was approved. And it was a good thing. It basically was set up for groups who offered retiree benefits to continue to offer retiree benefits. The government was incenting them to do this. They didn't want to have all the members who were insured by their employers, their retirees, to transfer over to a Part D program. And the way they did that was they offered a drug subsidy. They call it the retiree drug subsidy. And about 28% of a cost between $445 is spent and $9,200. And that's what these are today's numbers. But the problem is that some of the tax benefits that the employers were receiving were reduced when the PPACA came out, or the Obamacare legislation came out. They reduced some of those benefits, but what the Eggwhip was able to do is provide additional subsidies that an RDS type of plan doesn't. So, for example, we all hear about the donut hole in the Medicare Part D. Well, in today's world, the donut hole is pretty much filled up for the employee. They're not paying any more when they're in the donut hole than when they're not in the donut hole. Particularly in this plan, it's going to be the same from day one until they hit a catastrophic period where they're probably paying even less. And the reason is because the drug manufacturers, all the brand name drug manufacturers, are required to pick up 75% of the total cost for brand drugs during that phase. So that not only helps them, not only helps and benefits the members, but it benefits Bossier because their costs go down during that period. If Farm is picking up 75%, that's just that much less that Bossier has to pay. In addition to that, when members hit a certain period called a catastrophic phase, the government subsidizes 80% of cost. So that's much better than that's another big advantage where Bossier won't have to be paying those costs. 80% is being paid by the federal government, and the members have to pay 5%. So that's really good, particularly, I'm sure you all heard of specialty drugs, these very high-priced products that are used for rare conditions, as well as just brand name drugs in general. The prices are rising significantly every year, 12 to 15% annually for regular drugs. Specialty drugs, their prices increase 18 to 25% annually. I don't know about you, but I have had a 15% raise in 1 year. But the pharmaceutical manufacturers do that every year. But by doing so, by having these drug prices rising so fast and being more and more expensive, members move into that catastrophic phase faster, and that allows for the government to pick up more of the cost. So those are the primary benefits. We estimate, or we've seen estimates that by moving from an RDS program to an Eggwhip program, the employers will reduce their cost by, on average, around 18 to 19%. Next slide. So let's get into the implementation process. What we've been doing since the beginning of around August, September timeframe is we've been having weekly meetings, at least, typically bi-weekly, twice a week meetings with Jason and his team, as well as Nisha Bamberg and the Express Scripts team and our TrendRx team to make sure that this project plan is moving out and moving in a successful way. In addition to that, we were negotiating the PBM contract, and I'll get to that a little bit later in the presentation. We had to approve the drug benefit plan design, and basically what that means is because these members are moving into a different plan, a different structure, we had to make sure that we looked at all the benefits that they have today and make sure they lined up exactly in the new world. Okay, so that was the major thing that we did. We were able to approve that benefit design so that it looks exactly like what they have today. We approved the drug formulary. And now we're going to talk a little bit about that because that's going to affect the member experience. Although we're keeping it as close as possible, there are always going to be a little bit of changes in what drugs are covered or how they're covered when a plan moves from one to another. There is, and I'll walk you through some of the examples and explain to you how minimal this is. And in fact, there are more drugs being covered on the new benefit design. It's more flexible and less restrictive than what they have today. We developed and submitted the retired eligibility file. We got to make sure what's very important is knowing who are all the members, who are available, who are going to be eligible for this. Make sure they're all on the list and make sure CMS knows about it. We want to make sure we don't leave anybody behind. So that was a real important process. We're about 99% through that. We just got a couple more tweaks, but that's been very successful as well. And then we reviewed and approved all the different types of member communication has to take place. CMS makes sure that if you're going to offer a Part D product, that they approve anything that gets outreach to the member, any type of letter, any type of welcome kit, all that has to be approved. And the beauty of working with Express Scripts is they have
a handful of products that they already had pre-approved. They have all the documentation for the letters. We were allowed to modify them so that they spoke in the way that we felt the members would be more receptive to, and that's been all approved, and we're ready to roll and moving up and doing those types of communications. Next slide. We conducted a member formulary disruption analysis, and we'll dig into that a little bit more. We took all the members' claims that they have from January until September of this year, and we compared that. We actually mailed the pre-note letters just about a week and a half ago. So members who are going to have this change have been notified about the change, saying, we understand you're on this benefit as of January 1. There's going to be a change, and there's more to come. We're planning, if appropriate, to have town hall meetings, and we'll be there in person if that's what is deemed necessary. We're happy to do that to where the retirees who are affected by this can come in, learn more about the benefit. If they have specific drug issues, one of my other pharmacist colleagues and I will be here to help them through those processes as well. And that means talking to them, making recommendations. If they need us to call their pharmacy, if we need them to call their doctor, we'll be there to help them. Field any type of questions to help this transition be as smooth as possible. Letter generation for members, I have a hard time reading that, affected by the formula changes. So part of the process when we identify people who may be affected by this, we're going to start generating letters to letting them know, give them fair warning that, hey, there might be something you might need to do to work with your doctor to make this, to make the change. The ID cards will be mailed in December. They'll have a new ID card they'll have to present at the pharmacy. Pharmacy will enter it into their system and fill the prescriptions. And then the member support, once again, we plan to be here in the beginning of the year, particularly starting on January 1, to make sure claims are processing accurately, members are getting their medications, and things are moving in the direction that we expected. Next slide. Okay, so here we go. This is the member experience. Now, as we mentioned, when you make a formulary change, there will be some changes, and there will be some negative disruption where members might have a drug they're taking today that may cost them $30, but in the new world it may cost them $50. There's a lot of examples that we've identified where members are paying $50, in the new world they're going to be paying $30. So there's negative and positive changes. And I'm going to hone in a little bit more on the negative changes in a minute. Some drugs will move from one tier to another. However, the benefit's going to remain the same as far as the tiering and the cost level, as I mentioned before. I'm having a little bit of trouble reading my own slides. I apologize for the font there, so I'm going to look down. But all generics, the generic drugs will continue to be on the generic tier. And the vast majority of the drugs have equally effective and safe alternatives on a lower tier. So the ones that are moving up, there's plenty of other alternatives that are available. Formulary changes, it's an open formulary, which means that every drug that is manufactured is available somewhere on that formulary. The members won't be denied that. They may have to request an authorization of something, but there's no excluded drugs, as there are on other plans, I believe. Today's, they're moving to a closed formulary on the active employees right now, or in the future. So this is why it's even less restrictive for the retirees. In addition, there's going to be prior auth and step therapy quantity limits like we have today. And one thing that's going to ease the process is for the first 90 days on a Medicare Part D program, there's a transition period. So any member who happen to be negatively affected by a change, they'll get a transition fill for a 30-day supply the first time they go to get that prescription filled. That allows them to continue their therapy without any interruption, as well as advise time for their physician if they have to request an authorization or have a physician change their therapy. It gives them more time to make that happen without having any type of drop in care for the member. Also, it's, oh gosh, I'm having a hard time, tiered exception process. There's a tiered exception process too. So if you happen to be a member who's taking a drug that did go to a higher tier, but that drug is for you, the doctor knows, hey, this is something this patient has to have, they can file a request for that and say, I want my patient to move from that third tier copay for a brain drug to a second tier copay. So there's that ability as well if it's really something that is necessary for this patient to take. We don't have any hardship for them to have to pay more for that product. Let's go to the next slide. So what I have here is the tier changes. This data here is based on January through September of claims that were processed for members on the current plan. Okay? And how you read this is the first column there are the brand or the drug name. And these are the drugs that are actually negatively affected. The second column there are the number of affected members. Okay? The third column is what the drug is used for. And the fourth column is the preferred alternatives, the drugs that cost less on a new plan. They are either an alternative or they're exactly generic equivalent. And as you see, if you look at the very bottom of the table, in the second column, there are a total of 248 members who will be affected by this. But look at the first row. There's 68 members who are taking a drug called Synthroid today, and it's for thyroid disorder. Basically, when your thyroid slows down a little bit. But the good news is levothyroxine is a tier 1 product. It's a generic copay. It's the same exact drug as Synthroid. It's the generic equivalent. It's probably one of the most highly prescribed and utilized products in the country. So there's a very, very good alternative, or not even alternative, it's an equivalent drug just made by a different manufacturer, and it'll cost the patient less. That's 68 of the 248 members who are going to be affected negatively. All the green ones highlight those situations where there's a drug that's exactly the same, or there's a really, really close alternative. So the darker green are the ones that have generic equivalents that are going to be, as the same example as what we just discussed around Synthroid. The lighter green are products that are almost exactly the same, but made by a different brand manufacturer. So let's talk about insulin. This is the one we're going to spend a whole lot of time with members, because in the new world, Novo products, Novo is a brand name company that makes insulin products. That's the preferred brand on this new plan. Eli Lilly makes the Humulin products, which is in the right column. These are all insulin. Insulin is insulin is insulin. A rose is a rose is a rose. These are the same exact drugs, just made by a different manufacturer. The cost of the Novo insulin in the new world is the same cost of the member for the Humulin products today. We're going to work with these patients to transition them over to where they'll be getting the same drug and the same drug therapy for the same cost, just a different name. The next light one is the Benton. Benton is used for asthma. It's a drug called albuterol. And there's about a half a dozen brand name drug companies that make that product. Exact same drug, exact same form of tool that you use to inhale the product, exact same drug. ProAir is the preferred product. ProAir is the one we'll move members to. The doctors will simply have to write a prescription for it, and they'll be relieved. So as you can see, that's over half of the members in those 3 drugs alone that have exact equivalents. In the red colored ones, those are drugs that are that have alternatives that have the same therapeutic class. So when you think about therapeutic class, that's a class of drugs that work exactly the same, but they are made by different manufacturers. Okay? It's like if you threw all of them in therapeutic class in a bucket and you went and they're sitting in the doctor's office, the doctor will just pick one of them for a certain condition. They're all the same. They're basically the same. They're just made by different manufacturers. The ones on the left happen to be the ones that are preferred, and the ones on the far right are the ones that are going to have to be moved over. Now, as we mentioned though before, if there's some situation where the member absolutely had an experience where they couldn't take anything else, this other product was the only one that can work, there's a hardship around the cost, there's an exception request that the physician can take or make to get that drug tier lowered for that member. Now I'm going to stop there if anybody has any questions about that, because this is an important part. I know this is something very sensitive to y'all. So,
yeah, I wrote down, is it an auto approval if they go for a tier exception and the doctor says yes or something like it?
It's typically auto approved. There could be exceptions where they won't, but more likely it would be.
But if your physician gets involved in the process to say this therapy is what my patient needs, we're going to approve the tier exception.
Yeah. CMS, that's one good thing about CMS too, is that they're always looking in the best interest of the member. They've always failed for that. Now, so you had a question also, sir?
Mr. President?
Yes.
Yes, sir. No reflection on you, sir. The thing that troubled me about this when we first brought it up, and we passed it, I don't think I was for it. The word approved, disapproved, transition, same as. It's not the same as. Jaguar and a book BW. It may get you there, but how? Our people, all you see, sir, was built on the backs of our retirees. What's the purpose of this? The bottom line is saving money. That's what it is. It's not helping necessarily our retirees. They need the best that we can afford. We've got a ton of money and what they call a rainy day fund. It's raining pretty hard with COVID. You know, it's not there to be looked at. We've got this money. It's to be used when necessary. We've already done this, so we got it, but it concerned me greatly. And we're, okay, it's the same as. You can get approved for this. Somebody's dying or near dying. You get approved, but you have to do this and have to do this. You shouldn't have to do it. If a person is legitimately sick and needs that, get it for them. That was not the whole thing. Not you, sir. Just the system. Thank you, sir.
Okay, and I'll follow up with that. Mr. Williams, that's exactly why I asked the question. If the physician gets involved, are we going to push back against the physician, or is the physician still going to maintain his patients and do the best therapies that he can put on board for that particular disease state to the best of his ability? And yes, if it's a piece of paper that we have to send off and we can save some money, then I think that's a decent trade-off for our retirees. I don't think that's asking too much. If we're asking them to stop therapies that are the best thing for them, then absolutely I don't think it's the best thing for our retirees, but this doesn't seem to be that case.
Honestly, from my experience, in the industry, you have a very good benefit here, and the members here with this one is a very, very good benefit. You ought to be proud of that, and you're absolutely right. Patients first. We know. And they understand that. Is that health insurance companies and pharmacy benefit management companies, they manage from a population perspective. They look at all the people and say, okay, what works in general for all people. Doctors work at the patient level. So you can see there's a little bit of disparity where the difference is. And we understand that in most cases, HR will work for you in the population. But there are those cases where members need that drug. And that's why the doctor's there and why they're supporting that and why they're going to request that. And we understand they need to make those decisions and approve this type of request.
And I'll ask one more question. We talked about this a lot, but who makes that decision? We send the tier exception. Who makes that decision?
That actually is the Express Scripts company will have it. They have a prior authorization department, and then they have, it's called a redetermination. That's just the language. They have criteria they built where that was developed by physicians and pharmacists on, based on medical science, what the indications for the products are, as well as like sometimes there's drugs that are being used off label that have good studies that support their use in a certain condition. And they've developed this criteria to adjust for that. They will make that decision. But in the Medicare population, or this Eggwhip program, it's actually a little bit even better for the patients, because if they say that they get denied at the PBM level or the Express Scripts level, they have I think it's 3 or 4 additional rights to appeal, whereas today they have 1. They can appeal 3 or 4 times in order to get that medication. So they have more processes, more review teams that will look at that again and again, because CMS really wants those members to make sure they're going to get the medication they need.
Mr. President, what about a comment, please, sir? If I may.
Yeah.
Again, some, not necessarily a bureaucrat, but somebody in some far place knows nothing about Goshen Parish and his people, looking at costs, this and this. And guess who comes out losing most of the time? Is the person that needs it. When you're caught in the desert, making that last, like the old West Cowboy, the last trying to get the water. And somebody who knows nothing about this, hey, I'm sorry, use that. It's just, I hope it works, but I see us failing somewhere. The ones who need it most, and the ones who help us thing. So thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, and I'm asking a lot of questions because our retirees is there to answer to them, but let's say we have a denial, and they go through the 2 steps or 3 steps, whatever they have, and they still deny. Does that ever, I mean, this may be for Jason, does that ever come to the board to say, I went through all the steps, I don't think it's right, and then we can overrule the PBM?
Yeah, I think we can. But, I don't want to let me follow up.
I'm almost positive we can, because in the end, we're responsible. There's some things that the Medicare might not cover. We might not get reimbursed, or we might not get the discounts available. But again, it's the dollars that y'all are spending. So,
and I don't have a lot of board meetings trying to approve medications for people. I just want to make sure that we do have a process in place that, Mr. Williams, to your point, if it's not apples and apples and apples when we come down to this thing, which I feel like it is, but if it's not, and we're not getting the approval that we need at some point, it lets us be the decision makers.
and we've done that internally over the years in certain situations. When we went to the excluded drug list here for the actives and the retirees, we made exceptions when necessary, even outside of what the appeals were. Again, we might not get as great of a savings, but it's the dollars coming out of the school district. It's not money coming from Medicare Part D. It'd be less of a savings in some instances, but it'd be a one-off or something. It wouldn't be every drug.
Mr. Bass.
I just want to make sure that I understand this today, not if we RDS system. Express Scripts is our current PBM. If there is an exception to be made today under the current RDS system, it would go to the same department that makes that exception under the Eggwhip as does it today. If it goes and it's denied today under the RDS system, they have one more step that they can take. Yeah. So the same people, and then under today's system, if it's not approved, they have one step they can take. Under this new one, it's the same department, it's the same PBM. They have up to 4 appeals that they can file, stepping it up the ladder for the protection that they have under Medicare Part D, basically. So this is even more thorough than what they currently have. And it's the same exact people that they currently have today under the RDS system as they will have under the employer group waiver plan. Am I understanding that correctly?
You're understanding. There's one caveat. After the first step, the first review at Express Scripts, it goes to an external reviewer. So they have another objective.
So today, if Express Scripts says no, that's the end of it. Under the employer group waiver plan, Express Scripts says no. It then goes to somebody who will look at it again and again and again. So that's 4 times, and gives them even more opportunities to be provided that drug where they don't have that today under the current RDS system.
And outside of Express Scripts.
Okay, so this is even more thorough, and to Mr. Wiggins' point, it's even more protection for our retirees than what they have today. Am I understanding that?
That's correct.
More ways to say no.
It's also more ways to say yes, where if they hear no today, it's one stop.
Any more questions? Okay.
Okay. I do want to point out, we're not talking about utilization management today. We're still reviewing that. That's in the process right now. Those are the drugs that require prior authorization. But we're going through the same process as we described here for the tier changes. Next slide. We're going to change topics. Now, we talked about the contract negotiations. Now, with the RDS moved to the Eggwhip program, we anticipated at least an 18% savings in cost. In addition to that, through negotiations, we felt we were pretty successful in negotiating this new contract. Their proposal that they have today out is they have a broad pharmacy network. So members will continue to be able to get their prescriptions filled where they get their prescriptions filled today. If they live in a different state or somewhere else, they have this network is across the country, so it's a very, very broad network. It has very, very competitive pricing. They've got very good discounts negotiated. They have the retail, mail order, specialty pharmacy, everything that you have today. We identified about 19 negotiating points when negotiating this offer, and ESI accepted 79% of the 19 that we identified. Some of the ones that the highlight were the rebate dollars. In many cases, rebate dollars, you get a minimum guarantee, and that's what you get. And we know that they retain a lot, but they agree to provide for every rebate dollar that is earned by Bossier, it will be passed back to Bossier. They receive 100% of the rebate dollars. In addition, there's another portion called a manufacturer administration fee. That's generally worth about 10% of our total rebates. That is typically held by the PBM. You can just look into some of the studies that show, or some of the articles that say, for a Medicare Part D Eggwhip program, the PBM will retain 2 to 3% of that. They're passing 100% of that for traditional drugs and specialty drugs. They also add some flexible PBM auditing language. So maybe you could have someone go in and look at their books and make sure that that 100% is 100%, as well as make sure that all the programs are processing the way they are intended to. With those negotiating points, we're estimating that Bossier will receive or achieve an additional $320,000 in addition to the other savings over the term of that contract. So the next slide is what our next steps are. We're continuing to work on and updating the eligibility file. If someone happens to age in between now and the end of the year, we ensure they're on the file and they receive those benefits. We're preparing and sending member communications. Their welcome kits are going to be coming out pretty soon. The ID cards will be distributed late in December. We mentioned about the town hall meetings. If that's appropriate, we'll organize and provide those. We're going to sign the PBM contract. And then once again, we're going to be here at Trender Arts and making ourselves available to provide the high touch and high quality member support in January that your retirees truly deserve. We want to make sure it's a very smooth transition for them. Any questions?
Mr. Bass, for those members during COVID that may be uncomfortable coming to an in-person town hall meeting, will this also be provided virtually or over the phone where they will also be able to have their questions answered?
We'd be happy to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions? Okay. Thank you for your information.
Thank you. One more comment.
All right, that's okay.
As many of y'all may have been aware that letters have gone out this week, and there's been some calls. I spoke to Mr. Gaspar today. He had some concerns. He had some calls from people he had not received his letter yet. I have a copy of the letter. Nisha's got a copy of the letter that they forwarded us as far as what it says, and they were afraid that it said just Medicare D on it, that we were moving them to a Medicare
Part B plan and not a Bossier plan. Well, the letter's got Bossier's logo on top of it, and it says Bossier Parish at least 10 times in the letter. And so it is specific to y'all. It is a benefit that is specific to the Bossier Parish School Board's plan, and it mirrors the co-pays and the cost. There's some benefit. If they get to this catastrophic level, they'll pay a lower out-of-pocket expense, whether it's 5% or the co-pay, whichever is less. So it is an enhanced benefit for many. There is some impact, and we're working through that as best we can. Every phone call has began with, we're not going to do anything to put anybody out. We want the broadest network, the broadest formula to roll this out to make sure that the savings was not on the backs of anyone. The savings was justified based on the fact that money was coming from the drug manufacturers and the federal government.
Jason, do we have a updated list? I think we saw some lists along the way, but do we have an updated list of the current drugs that are being used and the ones that will be affected negatively from different tiers?
Just went through that, and we can get you that for sure.
Oh, that was the compiled the whole list.
That was.
But some of them go from 10 to 20 or 10 to 30, 70.
So it was 248 that were negatively impacted. Those were the list of the drugs. 248 members, not even drugs. So that list are all of the negatively impacted people.
Okay.
So 248 people, number of scripts per line item drug.
Gotcha.
So that's the entirety of it. And so when we looked at it, and we kept going back and forth, and some of these drugs I know that are excluded specifically by Medicare, Solantra, Synthroid itself, it's not because it's not in the Express Scripts formulary. It's because Medicare does not approve the cost of that drug. So it may be at a higher tier, but we're still covering it because it's open. So it's just directing them to the lower cost. And if we need to use a tier exception, again, it's available, and we can walk them through this. There'll be some disruption. There'll be some new prior authorizations that have to happen because we couldn't transfer the information directly from where they are today to a Medicare program. There's some legal fees that they have to deal with. The letter itself, as Dino pointed out, it has to be in this format because this format's approved by Medicare. And so we couldn't necessarily say, we want it this way. We don't want that paragraph. We don't want that. It has to be in this format. So
Can you flip that to the board just as a attachment on the email just so we can know what our retirees are getting?
Yeah, I'll get that out to you all in the morning. And there also the benefits that we approved, and that'll be included on it.
Mr. Brother?
I'm going to ask this crazy question, Jason. Did all of us get a letter about changing the drug tiers and stuff?
Not yet. So first there's a pre-note. Okay, and the pre-note says everybody that was transferred gets a letter that it says, hey, be aware, we're changing. There'll be more information to come. In the month of December, there'll be letters coming out from anybody that's impacted negative. There'll be letters about formulary changes if your drug changes. There'll be information about whether or not you have to go through a new prior authorization program. And that's what we're working through right now, is trying to make sure that if there's a change, the members notify them. If there's a requirement for a prior authorization to happen on the drug that they're taking, that they're notified, hey, this drug, it requires a prior authorization. Please be aware that you may have to go through some steps. Again, we're doing everything possible in the front end to make sure we don't have difficulties in the back end.
I guess my question is, my husband and I both got the letter, and we're not retirees with Medicare. That's why I'm asking, did all employees get a letter?
It should have been just those with Medicare that were on a retiree benefit. So
we both got letters and we're not.
So
that's why I'm asking, did everyone get a letter?
No, it's just supposed to be those on retirees with Medicare, whether it's just A or just B or both A and B.
We don't have any of that. Okay.
I'll verify.
That's why I was asking, because I'm kind of confused about that.
Yeah, and like I said, we're working through the eligibility and trying to make it as smooth as we can. Everything, that comes up, we mark it down, we go back through.
And this list, is this just for those people, or is this for all of us?
That's for all of it. That's for everybody that is on the eligibility file. Retirees with Medicare that show up on that.
But is this for like active members?
No.
Is this?
No.
Okay, so like, let's say I'm taking one of these drugs and I'm not.
If you're an active member, it's not going to affect you.
Okay.
Unless it's part of the closed formulary issue that we implemented for 1/1. And you should have received information on that already. Remember, we're going to a closed formulary. So I don't know if it's this letter that you received
No, I think.
or the letter on the closed formulary.
Yeah, did you send everybody? Did we?
Everybody that's a member today is getting the closed formulary information.
No, that's the letter I got. I remember receiving a letter.
So it's the closed formulary information that we're implementing for 1/1 that perhaps you got.
Yeah.
This letter is different. I don't think the members on retiree benefit are getting that letter, but they're getting this letter.
Okay, I apologize.
Other
Maybe I got the letters mixed up.
So Mr. Allman, that's 248 out of 1,500,
Yes.
is approximately 1,500.
Yes, or 16, 11, 24? Yeah.
Fast.
Mr. Allman, I would like to request not only do we get that letter, but each time you communicate with retirees, I ask that you forward the board a copy of that letter. In addition to our active employees, if you're sending out a letter as far as the closed formulary, we'd also like to know the date that goes out and what that communication says also. If you can, each time one of those goes out, if you can send it to the board.
I'll make sure. I didn't know the closed formulary stuff that started to go out, but I'll request that from Blue Cross and make sure that y'all get all of it.
That way when we get the calls, we know exactly what it is.
I understand completely, because when I read all of it, I didn't know other people had received this letter.
No more questions? That was
Mr. President, one final comment.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Apologize for this. So as our retirees ride into the sunset, fast for few remaining years and days, we're sitting on a rainy day fund of $50 million, and we save $320,000. And some company gets some money for what they're doing. Doesn't make sense to me. But thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Are our retirees negatively affected by this in any way?
True.
They have more chances to get an appeal than they have currently. It's the same exact company that we currently use under the RDS. All we're doing, as I understand it, is shifting the rebates. We still control, as in Bossier Parish School Board still controls this plan. We're not giving that right to anyone else. And we still have the ability to see that exception process through. In your opinion, Mr. Allman, are we standing on the backs of retirees?
Absolutely not. I assure you that every option has been taken to make this as broad and as open as it can be. There will be some people impacted, the majority of which will be similar or identical drugs to what they're taking today. There is an exception process. If for any unforeseen reason they can't take one drug over the other drug, they've tried it, it doesn't work for them, they don't like the color blue, there's an exception, they're allergic to the color blue. There's an exception process that they can move to the lower tier. And we're not talking about a drug being excluded at this point. We're talking about a drug being covered at a different level. The amount of drugs that are covered are vastly greater. The drugs that we have taken on ourselves to exclude over the years to protect the plan because of abuse from drug manufacturers are now covered. Brand name drugs for proton pump inhibitors, sleep medications, allergy medications that as an active employee they can't get access to today are covered under this one.
So our reserve, not 50 million, but I believe it's 36 or 37 million of taxpayer dollars, we're just utilizing their funds to take better care of our retirees. Is that what I'm understanding?
The program, again, does not go on the backs of the members. The idea behind the program to move into this program is to get access to the drug manufacturers' money as well as the federal government subsidy. When he says that you get 80 cents on every dollar once it gets past the catastrophic level, That's a total out-of-pocket spend or cost spent for the drugs for that member for the year of $6,300. Okay, it doesn't take sometimes one drug to get to $6,300. Once it gets past $6,300, we're getting 80 cents on every dollar that's spent back from the federal government through the Eggwhip.
Thank you so much. Being more prudent with taxpayer dollars and still taking care of our retirees in an even better manner. I appreciate it.
One final word. These, the fund have to be made up as not taxpayer dollars.
Right.
They came from the vote.
Correct.
From the vote here, not taxpayer dollars. That we can use to help our people. But that's fine, thank you.
Okay. So that was just an update. We don't need any action for any item on that. Okay.
No, we didn't want to go on without coming back to y'all and saying, hey, look, this is where we are. It's worked out the way we thought it would work out. And we're covering all the bases and we're working through it. As these letters come out, as things go, if y'all like, we'll come back and give you an update. I will send the letters once they're approved and we'll move forward.
All right. And Jason, thank you as always. And Dino, thank you for coming in and sharing your information with us as well.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Ms. Douglas, item 3.02, a request, permission to issue solicitations, E-rate category 2 products and services. Ms. Douglas, our Chief Procurement Officer.
Good evening, President Bamberg, Superintendent Downing, members of the board. This request is to issue a solicitation to receive proposals for category 2 products and components. We'll receive all the proposals, review them, and then bring back a recommendation for award to the board.
So moved. Motion by Mr. Newman, second by Mrs. Smith. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Item 3.03, a request permission to issue solicitations, wide area network circuit for Plainview and High, presented by Ms. Carrie Douglas again.
This is the same as the first, similar with your approval on this request. We'll issue a solicitation to upgrade the LAN circuit to fiber at Plainview. We'll receive responses, review them, and come back to the board for award at a later date.
Motion by Mr. Brotherton. Second by Mr. Dean. Please vote. Here you get your hand up when Plainview came up. Motion carries unanimously. Item 4.01, announcement, superintendent comments.
Thank you, President Bamberg. Both Fair schools and centers will be closed November 23rd through November 27th for Thanksgiving. Building and Grounds Planning and Development Committee meeting December 8th, 5 p.m. here at the Big. Next regular session of the board will be December 10th at 6 p.m. also here at the Big. That concludes my announcements.
Item 5.01, adjournment of the regular session of the board by Mr. Slack.
Motion adjourned.
Motion by Mr. Slack, second by Mr. Bass, please vote.